you know that research in Wales shows that the arts generate over £588 million in health and well-being every year? Studies from the NHS and the Arts Council of Wales have shown that engaging in creativity can benefit your anxiety, mental health, and depression. There is millions of studies about this, but I didn't realize this through research and statistics. I realized this because when I was at my lowest, art became my lifeline. From a young age, art was always there. My mum was a deeply creative person herself, but never had the chance to pursue art. So instead, she passed that creativity on to me at home. So our kitchen was filled with thousands of paintings, a proper creative household. Painting was my first language. At a young age, she taught me how to mix colours, how to realise kind of composition and art history. But at home, I felt celebrated and supported. But at school, it was a very different story. At the time, I didn't realise I was dyslexic. So instead of doing workbooks and maths, I was drawing. I got told off quite a lot for it, but it didn't stop me with my art. At a very young age, before going to secondary school, I was told I'd never amount to anything. So I stopped trying. Secondary school, I just skated through it. I didn't really want to be there. It was hard to get me through the doors. But at home, I was always encouraged to be myself and do the art I want to make. So I managed to get the GCSEs I needed in college. I managed to get to art college, go to university. I did a year abroad in Norway, which was my first time leaving home. And as a person who comes from a working class background, things like that felt out of reach. So I ended up pursuing the career in arts that I wanted to do. I ended up doing my master's, but that's where everything changed. My mum passed away suddenly, without a warning, and it completely destroyed me, if I'm honest. I went into a deep, deep, dark depression where I couldn't get out of bed. My wife had to cook and wash me. I didn't want to be here. And I'm actually surprised I made it to my 30th birthday, to be honest, because I generally didn't think I'd wanted to be here at all. But with the support of my wife, my friends, they are my chosen family. I wouldn't have been even doing this talk without them. They've been my lifeline. But as time went on, they encouraged me to go back to university. I didn't want to go back. I wanted to give art up completely. So I ended up going back to university. I went early mornings, late at night, just to be alone with it, just to see what would happen. I didn't care about lectures or classes. I just went to go to the studio to paint. Something happened. Something started to change. I started painting and I didn't realize what I was painting about. But there was a shift. I could get up in the morning. I could make myself a cup of tea. I could walk to university. I could get out there. I could be myself again. I started to paint and paint about my experiences. At the time, I didn't realize it. But I finished my master's, and that's when I knew I wanted to pursue a career in the arts. It was survival for me. It was death or be an artist. And for me, I wanted to be an artist. I wanted to make it work. But at the time, I didn't realize that art was the thing that was getting me through this and painting. And I'm not the first artist in history to do this. Van Gogh painted over 2,000 artworks while he was struggling with his bad mental health. Frida Kahlo painted about her physical and emotional pain. So I wasn't alone in that experience, but it was a thing that got me through it. At a time where I didn't understand my grief, I felt alone. I felt that I didn't have anyone to connect to about it. But art was a thing that made me forget about everything. When I was painting, I wasn't worrying about yesterday or thinking about tomorrow. I was just thinking about the painting. And that's when I discovered about the flow state. A flow state is when you paint or you're deep in your creativity and you're not worrying about anything, you're just fully in that moment. And for the first time in so long, I felt at peace. And for so many other people, that peace is vital to them. that is the thing that actually helps them. They actually are not worrying about anything. They're not thinking about their mental health. They're just thinking about what they're doing right now. And that was something that was vital to me. So as time went on, I started painting about my experiences, but being open and honest about them. At first, when I started going into my career with the arts, I didn't really want to be open about my experiences. I like to say that my paintings are like storyboards and events of my life. But at the time, I didn't want to tell people, because I thought maybe it would put people off my work. But the more I started to be open and honest about what I was doing, people started to connect with the work. And there's no right or wrong with my art. I always say that my art is like listening to music. It can relate to you to a time in your life. You listen to a certain song and you're like, oh, that memory, that comes back to me. That's what I like to say with my work. That's what I do. I almost print screenshots of my life in my paintings. And people started to connect with them and see their own stories. But the truth is, I'm not here because of my success of my work. I'm here because of survival. My work gave me purpose. My work made me feel connected to my mum again. But as time went on, people started to fall in love with what I was doing. And for that, I was so grateful to people to actually connect with the work. So if we can start to think about art as not just something we can enjoy or something to look at or its function, but what it does for people, what it does for the artist who's making it. Maybe if we start to think about creating something can actually move someone in a special way, then not just what the aesthetics or what it looks like. So I'm going to keep going and keep making my paintings. And my paintings now have traveled all over the world, places that I've not even been. I've sold work over 6 continents and it's traveled. And that isn't because of the way it looks. It's because of passion, because of motivation, because I don't give up. I got told by so many galleries they didn't want my work. And now it goes everywhere. I actually don't have any work in my studio currently because it's just gone. But I'm grateful because art has given me a purpose. Art has given me that thing in my life as a voice. Even when I didn't know how to describe what I was feeling, art was always there. Art is the way I communicate. Even this talk, I ended up drawing it out because I found it so difficult to put it into words. But today, if there's one thing you can learn from it, there is millions of statistics out there saying art is good for your well-being. But I'm a living proof of that. And maybe if we start to think about creating things can actually be the thing that helps someone to move forward in their life.